Yo, so there's a bunch of ways to make money in GTA 5 Online. Some are really good and then some are... yeah, nah. But which money methods are the best of the best? Well, in this video, we're going to be going over what I consider to be the top 5 best ways to make money solo in GTA Online. Starting off this top 5 list, we've got auto shop contracts, and hence the name, you're going to need to own an auto shop, of course. You can find them on Maze Bank Foreclosure, and the one I recommend getting is the one in Burton for a little over $1.8 million. It's in a really good spot, being close to some other businesses in the area, so yeah, I highly recommend this one. The only downside of the auto shop is that you've got to deal with KD, Jay, and Sasanta. I don't know who I hate more, these two dumbasses or English Dave, like holy shit. But anyway, now for the auto shop contracts, you just want to come on over to this whiteboard right over here. On the whiteboard, you'll see 3 different contracts out of a total of 8 which vary. Now these are pretty much just like mini heists. There's 2 setup missions and then a big finale, which honestly aren't even difficult to complete, and they only take about 30 minutes to do, which is sweet. Now as for the payout, you'll be making $172,000 on average from each one of these auto shop contracts, except for the Union Depository contract. This one pays out $300,000, which is amazing money to make in just half an hour. If you don't see the Union Depository contract on your contract board, you can actually reset it, and the way I do this is by starting up any contract that's already on my board, and then once I'm outside, I immediately open up my phone and call Sasanta to cancel it. Now you just want to join a new lobby and the board should be reset once you walk back into your auto shop. Depending on what contracts you end up doing, you can make around $400,000 to $500,000 in an hour, and that'll add up real quick the more you do them, so definitely a profitable money method right there. Now for the number 4 spot, we've got the Acid Lab business. Now I am always recommending this business to beginners, as you don't need a whole lot of money to get started with it. The main thing you're going to need in order to get started with it is the Brigade 6x6, and you can actually unlock it for free by completing all 6 of the first dose missions. These missions should not take you more than an hour to complete, and for doing so, you'll unlock the Brigade 6x6 and make $500,000. All that's left to do is just walk on over to Mutt in the freak shop and pay him $750,000 to convert it into the Acid Lab business. Now, in order to make the most money possible with the Acid Lab, you're going to need to do 10 Fooligan jobs. For doing so, you'll unlock the equipment upgrade for the Acid Lab, which will up the pay by almost $100,000 as well as speed up the production speed. You can start these up by opening up your phone, calling Dax, and requesting work from him. Now, these aren't exactly my favorite missions in the game, but trust me, you'll want to do them just for that pay increase. Once you do those 10 Fooligan jobs, you never have to bother with them again. Trust me, because I haven't done one of these in like 6 months. One more thing you should definitely do is change the name of your product. Just open up your interaction menu, go to Services, Acid Lab, Product Name, and change it to whatever you like. By doing this, it's going to increase the value of your product by just a little bit. Normally, I'd be making $335,200 on full product, but now it went up to $351,840. Anyway, as for how you actually make money with the Acid Lab, this one's really easy. It's a passive business, meaning it builds up on its own. The only thing you have to do is walk up to Mutt in your Acid Lab and pay $60,000 for supplies, then just check back later on. You can also call him from your phone and buy supplies that way. If you want to speed up the production speed, you'll need to come over to this little table right here and press right on your D-pad. Once you do that, it'll take like 3 hours before you have full product and are ready to sell. And once it is time to sell, the sell missions are extremely easy to do and only require 1 sell vehicle, which makes them great for solo players. On top of that, they shouldn't take you more than like 5 to 10 minutes. But if you want to make even more money, do yourself a favor and go into a full public lobby. By doing so, you're going to make well over $500,000 thanks to the high demand bonus, which is about $150,000 more than you'd make for selling in an invite only lobby. Definitely an easy way to make money in the background, whether you're a beginner or a veteran in GTA 5 Online. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we've got the Dr. Dre contract. In order to get started with this money method, you're going to need to own an agency. You can find them over on Dynasty 8 Executive, and the cheapest one is over in Little Seoul for $2 million. This is the one that I personally own since it's right down the street from my CEO office, so yeah. Now, the Dr. Dre contract is the storyline missions from the contract DLC, but unlike other storyline missions from other DLCs, these actually have a pretty nice payout in the end. In order to get started, you're going to want to come into your agency's office and log into your computer. Then come on over to VIP contract. Now, the first time that you do the Dr. Dre contract, you'll need to do these 2 missions right here. After that first time though, you never need to do them again, so just remember that. There's going to be 3 leaks right here that you've got to do, each one having 2 setup missions and then a big finale. And then you just need to do 2 final missions after all that, which you can start up right here in your agency. Overall, this shouldn't take you more than an hour and a half to complete, and in my opinion, these are really fun to play. The storyline to the Dr. Dre contract brings back Franklin from story mode. Now, while I love all 3 of the main characters, Franklin was for sure my favorite, so it was wholesome as hell to see him doing good years after story mode. And of course, Dr. Dre's obviously in it. There's nothing much to say about that. They literally put Dr. Dre in GTA Online. Enough said. Anyway, while each individual mission's payout is pretty ass, don't let that fool you, because in the end, you'll make $1 million for completing the Dr. Dre contract. And the cooldown for it is gonna be 1 in-game day, which is equal to 48 minutes in real life time. Overall, this is a pretty solid way to make money, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Now, for the number 2 spot, we've got the Nightclub's Warehouse. The nightclub is easily the best business in the game, hands down. There is no better way to make passive income than with this beast of a business right here, especially with its warehouse right below it. Now, the thing that I love about the Nightclub's Warehouse is that the only real work you need to put into it is setting it up. Once you have everything set up, it pretty much does all the work on its own. And I'm just letting y'all know right now that this business gets expensive to set up, but trust me, it is 100% worth it in the long run. First things first, you're gonna need to actually own a nightclub. You can find them on Maze Bank foreclosure, and I recommend getting either one of the two at the top of the city. Either one is gonna run you about $1.7 million. Now, when you're buying one, make sure you go into the storage upgrade section and add the max number of floors. This is gonna allow you to max out on product for all 5 of your warehouse goods. Now, once you own a nightclub, go to your nightclub's computer and come on over to the upgrades tab. You wanna make sure that you get the equipment upgrade and the staff upgrade. The staff upgrade is more so for the actual nightclub itself, but it's good to have that as well. And don't even worry about the security upgrade, trust me. Now, while you're still on your computer, I want you to go to the warehouse management tab. You're gonna wanna make sure that you hire all of the technicians featured here. The more of them that you hire, the more money that you'll make per hour. This business is also gonna require you to own some other businesses. By owning these other businesses, you'll be able to produce their goods through the warehouse. And no, you don't need to have them upgraded at all or even filled up on product. Just make sure that they're active and not shut down. Anyway, the ones you'll need are either a CEO office or a hangar, a bunker, a coke lockup, a Walter White lab, and then a counterfeit cash factory. Then just set the technicians to produce from those 5 types of goods right there. One last thing to mention is that you're gonna wanna go over to Warstock Cash and Carry and pick up the Pounder Custom. You can get it for $320,000 or $241,000 with the trade price unlocked. This is gonna be your main sell vehicle for this business. I'm gonna heavily recommend that you upgrade it too, because you can throw on armor plating and a bunch of other weapons that are gonna make it harder for griefers to ruin your day. And that's it for setting up the business. Once you have everything set up, the warehouse fills up on goods completely on its own, just like I mentioned before. There's no having to come back and resupply like with the Acid Lab or other businesses within GTA 5 Online. So just let it build up in the background while you grind out the other money methods on this list. The only reason you'll ever need to come back to the warehouse is just to check if it's time to sell. And speaking of having to sell, the sell missions are similar to the Acid Lab business, in which you only need one vehicle no matter what. And honestly, they're all pretty easy and straightforward, definitely doable as a solo player. But something to keep in mind though is that Tony is always gonna get a cut of the profit for these sell missions. It'll either be 10% of the payout or it'll be up to $100,000, as he'll never take more than $100,000. For this reason, make sure you always sell at least $1 million worth of stock. I'm also going to recommend selling in a full public lobby to make even more money. Let me give you guys a quick example. Right here, I sold about $1.2 million worth of stock, right? Of course, $100,000 of that goes to Tony, like I said, so technically it's $1.1 million. But because I was selling in a public lobby that was pretty close to being full, I got the high demand bonus. And that came out to an extra $600,000, turning what would have been a $1.1 million payout into a $1.7 million payout. So in my opinion, this is definitely worth the risk of being griefed, especially since you're in a very armored vehicle, so it's very unlikely to happen. Now, before we move on to the number 1 spot on this list, I'm actually throwing in an honorable mention, and that's going to be none other than payphone hits. In order to do these, you're going to need to own an agency, just like with the Dr. Dre contract that we went over earlier. Now, payphone hits are these short little missions where you have to go take out a target for Franklin, and there's always an assassination bonus, which is going to dramatically change the payout, so just make sure that you always follow it. Anyway, in order to start one up, you just want to call up Franklin on your phone and request a payphone hit, then just go to the nearby payphone on your map and the mission will begin. Sometimes whenever you're just roaming through the map, a payphone will start ringing on its own, so that's another way you can start one up. Now, the assassination bonus for each of these is always going to vary, but like I said, just make sure that you follow whatever it tells you to do. Like, it may have you set the target's car on fire, maybe you'll have to ram the target's car with a big ass semi-truck, or sometimes there'll be multiple targets and you have to take each one of them out within a certain amount of time. But again, despite what that assassination bonus is, just follow what it tells you to do and you'll make $85,000 in just about 5 minutes. Now, $85,000 might sound like absolute ass compared to the other money methods we've gone over in this video, but the thing with payphone hits is that, like I said, they only take about 5 minutes to complete, maybe up to 10 minutes if you're just learning how to complete them. So I normally do them in between the other money methods from this list. There's a 50-minute cooldown, so you can do it before doing the Dr. Dre contract and right after it. That's $170,000 right there on top of the $1 million that you make from the Dr. Dre contract itself. Or you can do payphone hits before and after the number 1 money method on this list. And speaking of the number 1 money method on this list, it's the Kyle Perico heist. There's no question about it. This right here is the best money making method within all of GTA Online. In order to get started, you're gonna need to own a Kosatka submarine. You can find it on Warstock Cash and Carry for $2.2 million. While this might seem pretty expensive to a beginner, this should definitely be one of the first things that you buy in GTA 5 Online. Once you have a Kosatka, you're pretty much set in this game. The heist is that good. Anyway, unlike every other heist in the game, this one can be played 100% solo, which is great, and it should only take you an hour at the most. Obviously, down the line, once you get the hang of it, you'll probably get it done in about 45 to 50 minutes, but an hour is the most it should take you for the setups and the finale. Now, the payout is going to vary based on a whole bunch of things, such as the primary primary target, loot, difficulty, and other stuff, but you can make anywhere from $1.3 to $1.8 million from the Cayo Perico heist in just an hour. You see what I'm talking about? The only downside to the heist is that there's a 2.5 hour cooldown when you do it solo, which is why you're definitely going to want to take advantage of the other money methods we went over while you wait. Now the heist is a whole process. There's different routes you can take, different looting spots, and some other things that you'll need to learn to make the most out of this heist. Luckily for you, I've got a whole guide on how to make the most money possible from the Cayo Perico heist. So if that sounds interesting, then you'll definitely want to click on the video on screen right now.